You're listening to a Countout Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Ballot, the podcast where the conversation begins. I'm your host, Ryan Knightsey, and today we are not beginning a conversation, but I guess, in fact, returning to a conversation last had 20 years ago. That's right. We're talking about someone that came on into the Observer ballot in 2006, and we're talking about him yet again 20 years because Dave has decided, for some reason, to put him back on the ballot. Unclear why, but maybe we can discover why.
I'll tell you why. It's that TNA run.
You got look the TNA run and all this commentary work.
That's right.
This prestige commentary.
Who else is trying to claim credit for getting someone over by making orgasm noises on commentary?
I mean, if that's not historical significance, if that's not working ability, I don't know what is.
Hint the bricks, Mike Tenay.
Get your facts out of here, Mike Tenay.
Yeah.
get your exuberance out of here. So we're talking about Booker T, as you could probably have guessed. He popped up on the ballot. We sort of talked about this at the end of last season, about if there's anyone that had interest or anyone that gets not interested but get drafted into recording an episode with me. That's how we're going to talk about these people that are returning to the ballot, because typically the show obviously we discuss first timers only. But hey, look, this time we had an open slot, and Fred, I wanted to chat with you. So welcome back to the show, Fred Morlan. Welcome back. Thank you for coming back on, Fred.
Oh, thanks for having me on. So I don't think you should be in the Hall of Fame, and it's been a great show. Thank you for having me, and go fuck yourself.
I think that's only fair, and thank you for getting me. I think just cut it off YouTube on that one.
Ain't no one making money off this, brother.
Well, look, we're talking about Booker T.
It's a simulation of Booker T's main event career.
Like I said, you have been drafted into this podcast. I've been doing so much research for I don't know why on Booker T. And for this episode, and we need to address it up top, Fred. I truly do not understand why this guy's back on the ballot. That's kind of the premise that I feel like you and I are working with.
I would actually argue that when he was on, and you said 2006.
Yeah, 2006. He fell off immediately with less than 10.
It actually made more sense then, I think, versus now, because at least in 2006 he could do a little I wonder what the rest of his career will be, And granted, it was almost 18 years deep at that point, and in 2006 terms, that's close to the end, sure, but it's not like 2026 where you can apparently wrestle to your 84 and main event WWE or AEW. He. I think in 2006 he could have told me a little he's probably not ready yet, but 5 years, who knows? Would have been a stretch.
I have that context written down here, if you like. So
sure, yeah.
When he came onto the ballot, he had just become King Booker, and he won the World Heavyweight Championship again, I guess, in the proper WWE system. Look at the hard cam, look at the proper WWE ring. He would then fall off the ballot immediately. He would then also lose the world title a month after dropping off the ballot, which I was just like, oh boy. He then went to Raw, didn't do too much there because almost pretty quickly on, he got the steroid suspension, the alleged steroid suspension.
Oh, yep. The signature pharmacy scandal.
Leaves for TNA. He's there in TNA from 2007 to 2009. He leaves TNA, does some, indie Puerto Rico dates, comes back to WWE as a color commentator in 2011, and occasionally shows up in the Royal Rumble for whatever reason. He does a brief stint as the SmackDown general manager from 2012 to 2013, and then he goes back to the commentary table from 2014 to today. Outside of that, the only other thing would be he helps start up Reality of Wrestling as well around this time period. So that's pretty much like what has happened with Booker T. And like you sort of talked about, at the time in 2006, it kind of makes sense. in some ways, I also think it almost makes sense for him to have fallen off immediately
Yeah, sure.
because
No problem with that.
like the idea of this guy, like he gets this new outlandish character in King Booker, and then he becomes world champion again. I could also see an argument of like voters being like, well, we don't have to vote for this guy yet. I don't know what the ballot looked like in 2006, obviously. Or I
Yeah.
don't have that in front of me, but like I could totally see a world where like 2006 voters were like, well, yeah, we're not going to vote for Booker T right now. He might be at the prime of his career. This
Right.
character could be working. He just won the world championship again. Why not wait? And then we waited 20 years later, and I don't know. I kind of feel like it's gone a little bit downhill since, Fred.
Well, I mean, it depends on how mad you are about him winning worst announcer again. But
Well,
apparently, it seems like he may have just learned that's an award this year and got mad about it when he like won what the last 2 years prior to this, if I'm not mistaken.
he's a four-time first
Four
place
times, yeah.
winner of the worst commentator. We'll talk about that a little bit more a
Yeah.
little bit later, but yeah, he has won it the past 3 years, 2025, 2024, and 2023, and he won it again. He won it as well in 2017. But he's pretty much ranked in the top 10 for the past since 2011 since becoming an announcer.
In all fairness to that criteria, there's probably been like 10 announcers in those years. So,
which is also true.
yeah, you know. Well, let's go over the criteria for the hall just to cover all our bases as I slap the microphone as I am a professional at the podcasting.
Yeah, of course. So do I have now I gotta look do I have it right in front of me? I don't actually think I have the criteria.
It's basically, were you a draw, were you good in ring, or were you positive on the industry as a impact outside of those two fields, basically.
If you are good enough in at least two of those categories, then you warrant induction or warrant favor.
Just one, even if you're excellent.
Yeah, if you're overwhelming in one category, then Dave says there's criteria that should be met. I was looking up I forget who made this. It's someone in Voices of Wrestling. I don't remember who put together like the Hall of Fame balloting results for the past several years and like individual wrestlers. I forget who put it together, but I use it all the time. I just want to see what 2006 was. That's the year that Eddie Guerrero went in, which I assume I assume that would have been U.S. and Canada, maybe Mexico. I don't know. And everyone else is like Paul Bowser, Hiroshi Hase, Masukatsu Funaki, and Aja Kong. So not really, didn't really get a lot of information there. I thought there'd be more information. Sorry for pausing the show, but yeah. So that's basically the criteria for the Wrestling Observer newsletter. That's our assessment here today. Is this sort of idea of how does Booker T work in those three categories? And I think we'll start off first, Fred, talking about that working ability, the wrestling ability. There isn't much there on the Vine. I did some research just to give as a starting point here, starting to throw some facts at the audience here, Fred. He has 252 matches with a number rating on Cage Match. He of those 252 rated 8 or higher, there are only 7. So 3% of his numbered rated catalog in Cage Match is rated 8 or higher. 1 is rated 9 or higher. I should note that all of those 7 matches are multi-man matches: the Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, Elimination Chamber, Survivor Series. So that's all there. Looking at Dave ratings, he has 117 matches with a star rating by Dave via Cage Match. Via Cage Match's his stuff. Rated 4 or higher, there are 8 matches, so practically the same. And he has 0 matches rated 5 or higher. They are all again also only multi-man matches, except for 2, which is a singles match against Bret Hart and a singles match versus Chris Benoit, which I mean some of the best all-time workers of ever.
They're lucky Booker T was there to carry them.
Exactly right. Just to add even more flames into the fire here, on Cage Match, their number ratings rated 2 or lower. He has 6 matches, so practically the same number as rated 8 or higher for him. That's 6 to 7. I didn't mean to do that. And then according to Dave, rated 1 or lower, he has 15 matches, which is about a little less than double his 4 stars or more, according to Dave. So he doesn't have a lot in terms of ratings from the cage match inmates and Dave himself, but that's a lot of facts and figures. Fred, what do you feel like about Booker T's working ability?
I always thought he was like good, like in that um, a little better than Kane, a little better than Big Show. Kind of like I never was like, ah man, I gotta watch him wrestle, but it was always like, gonna watch him wrestle, I guess.
Passable, pretty good. Like I feel like
AEW Jay Lethal, the 3-star machine himself.
Yeah,
Jeff Jarrett, for large chunks of his career. I think he was a talented wrestler. Like, it's not easy to be like good as a pro wrestler, and I think he pretty much lived to that level his entire career. There were some things I thought he did very well. He was athletic, but not in the way we usually mean it in wrestling. Usually, when someone says athletic, they mean like flippy doos, and like obviously he did like the Harlem Hangover. I think he did that early on in his career, which was a crazy ass move in the mid '90s.
yeah.
Still would be today, frankly. But like outside of that, like he was a fluid. He moved fluidly, and I always appreciated that about him. And
I would say, especially for his build as well.
yeah, he was a big guy and he could move well, and that's a great combination to have. And part of the whole, like, there is a touch of an asterisk on his like these ratings we went over, in that that was not a work rate era.
No.
I believe that his prime was over the past decade. Say he would have had far more matches. I don't know that he would have been banging around 4.5 that often, especially in like straight matches. But I could have seen him, getting some more low level notebook, 4.25 stuff match, especially when you factor in like their deflation is a real thing from like the late '90s, early aughts to today. Now, mind you, some of that probably is just Dave likes this wrestling more, because I'll tell you, I watched a few matches from that time period for Booker T, and like the good matches, like the Bret Hart one, the Eddie Guerrero, whichever pay per view that was for the TV title, and the SummerSlam main event with The Rock, and a SmackDown match with Kurt Angle. I watched those 4 today, and I thought they were all good, but they all had like copious amounts of bullshit in them.
Yeah.
And like the Bret Hart one was literally interrupted by Disco Inferno in the back threatening a camera guy to hijack the signal for the satellite so that the NWO could play a video at the end of the show. Which, again, you cut away from.
You gotta respect the logic, because sometimes in wrestling nowadays it's just like you just cut to a video right then and there. You tell the guy in the truck, and he just does it. This guy's like, we gotta threaten. But
it was like a whole conversation where the guy was like, I don't know, we could lose our FCC license. Like, it was a 2-minute conversation or something. And Disco Inferno was like, how much you get paid? $500 a night. That's all. Like it was just absurd. And like, I'm missing Bret Hart wrestle.
Yeah.
in the end of his career, like that footage, we're never going to see it. But we got Disco Inferno doing this shit. The Eddie Guerrero match had mild Chavo Guerrero drama, family drama stuff on it. Levels, APA running down, and same with the Kurt Angle match. Like that match, if you were booking it on TEW, you would have been like clicking on insert or interference note here, interference note here.
Yeah. Fred, are you still there? Oh, it seems we may have lost Fred here. He seems to be frozen on my screen. I'm gonna wait 1 second.
No, we're not. My little microphone's. You'll probably have to edit out some audio there, because I was still going, brother.
Yeah, no worries. You were frozen on my screen. I couldn't hear you at all. So.
Gotcha. That's not ideal. But yeah, like basically they're all like overbooked messes that were like, yeah, this might have been something if the booking director.
Fred, if you can hear me, you froze again. I would recommend maybe leaving the stream and coming back in, because you did freeze yet again as soon as you started talking. So I'll just go for a little bit, I guess. Yeah, no, I think that's also fairly true. Is that there is an idea of like, I mean, there's still kind of like bullshit in wrestling now, and in terms of a similar vein of interferences and whatnot. But there is this idea of like, for a guy that size, for his build, for to have that level of athleticism in a modern sense, that could have maybe worked better, because there, in a modern sense, there would have been more guys that would have been able to sort of wrestle like him, and have more interesting matches in that regard. So that could have been something, but the time the time he was wrestling is what it was. We can't really work off that what if of like, maybe he would have been a better worker in a better era, and that could may or may not be true. But this idea of a worker in this time is pretty good even then is sort of disconcerting. There's obviously the tag team of it all, with Harlem Heat, which I think was a fairly decent tag team. I mean, he was obviously the better worker of the two, and for very much the case. And then there's the other aspect of things of like, if you expand the wrestling ability, working ability of it all, then you look at the sort of overall scope of wrestling ability. You're not just looking at in-ring. You could be looking at promo ability and charisma and all these sort of different things that add into the mix. Fred, is your internet better, or is it fully beefed?
It is apparently non-beefed at this point. Impossible Burger internet at the moment. We'll see how this goes.
Okay.
Um,
It's a process between burgering and tofuing.
that's right. That's right. Right now it's good. Yeah.
I was sort of saying like expanding the scope out of like wrestling ability to promo ability, charisma, these sort of other aspects of like he brings to the character, because I think it's very obvious that like what people know Booker T as the most. When you think of Booker T, you're thinking of one guy, and you're thinking of a guy wearing a giant crown and holding a scepter, as like one of like the more, I would say like one of the more popular gimmicks of the past several decades. Like people
it seemed to stick with people despite being actually kind of short-lived.
Extremely short-lived. It was like maybe
Less than a year.
I was gonna say maybe 2, 1.5 maybe.
Yeah, apparently it was May 2006 to April 2007, so not even a full year.
Yeah, so there is something like to that, as like being able to be that charismatic and to excel. I want to bring in this quote and sort of get your reaction, because it ties into that idea. Kurt Angle, at one point in time in an interview, apparently he also put out a newsletter that stated his like top 10 all-time wrestlers he's ever wrestled. And in the top 5, Kurt Angle put in Booker T. His quote there was, "He's done it all. He legitimately is one of the top 5 best of all time. A great showman, a great entertainer." And I watched the interview that he was discussing this in, and he was sort of talking about, and this was an interview posted, I want to say like a decade ago or so. And in that interview, he sort of talks about like what's so great about Booker T in Kurt Angle's eyes is that when you wrestle him, it's almost a night off. Like, he is so charismatic and so entertaining that you don't have to like work as hard, because the crowd is going to naturally like pop and go with Booker T. Which, I mean, certainly I think that definitely says something. And coming from Kurt Angle, I feel like that definitely adds something to his working ability.
And that's always been the strongest part of Booker's game, is I think even more than just like promo ability, it's kind of different. It's just charisma. He's always been a very charismatic guy. And I mean, he's just was cool to watch, basically, I think, at his peak. Again, I wouldn't qualify him as a great wrestler, because to me, to be a great wrestler, you have to have like a list of great matches, and he really doesn't. But he was always like, he always had a great crowd connection, and I think that is the strongest point of his case. Now, the downside of that is I don't think he has a single bit of drawing power so you can really point to. And so it's kind of, yeah, it's like he is a fun mid-carder, but like, like Boogie Woogie, Jimmy Valiant also had a great, fan connection and crowd connection during his heyday. And
yeah,
I sure as hell wouldn't even put him on the ballot, frankly, but
Yeah, I think that brings us perfectly into drawing. So I have a part of my research here. I don't, it going. I came up with ideas in turn looking at drawing power and looking at all this sort of stuff. And I did go quite down a rabbit hole that took me several weeks to put together attendance records. I went through and did a little project of mine that went through the United States pay-per-view attendance from where's my first year? I believe it's from 89 to 2025. And it's covering promotions WWE, WCW, TNA, NXT, counting that, and AEW. The only one I didn't get to was Ring of Honor yet, but I'll prioritize that and add it to the next bit.
Sure, yeah.
For sure in a moment. But Booker T never worked Ring of Honor, so I gave myself a pass there. And I do my usual thing I talked about in the past of like, the sort of like I'm looking at longevity on top. I'm looking at how they're doing in terms of placements on the card, and more importantly, is the card they're on pop a house? Is their average better or worse than the average attendance? I'm looking at all these sort of things. I also looked at sort of that classic 10,000 attendance number that everyone sort of looks at. I also looked at a little bit of like a scale to sort of look at things a little bit more similar, because obviously when it comes to any promotion that is in WWE, it is very difficult to hit that 10,000. WCW obviously has done it at certain times. AEW has done it a little bit more than WCW, and then TNA and NXT struggle with that a little bit. So I try to do a little bit of a scale to try to look at like what is a third of the promotion's average attendance. So for like WWE, a third, that scale brings them from 10,000 to 16,000. And now it hit that number. For AEW, it's 11,000. For WCW, it's 10,000. I think for TNA, it's like 1150. So it's pretty low. But I did a little bit of a scale there as well. All in all, what I got here, and I can share this with you. And I don't know if this will mess up your internet anymore, but we'll find out. Let's see here. So what I put all of this together, Fred, and this is a list of 80 wrestlers from the past 30 years, 25, no, 30, 35, something like that. 80 wrestlers. You got in the top, what is this? The top, almost pretty much the top, I think this is the top 25 here. As you can see on the left side. Let me see if I can make that a little bit smaller. You can see, a little bit smaller actually helps you. But you can see on the left side here, the top 25 is everyone, like a bunch of people that are already in the Hall of Fame, highlighted yellow, and then highlighted green are people who are on the ballot who are not in. Those are being Randy Orton, Kane, Edge, Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins, and Batista.
And your top five are, as you scroll off the top five, Undertaker, John Cena, Triple H, Roman Reigns, The Rock.
Correct. And that's looking at an average between their 10 plus attendance, a promotional scale, longevity on top. I also did a little bit of thing here to see, give like a little bit of a number variance of like when they were wrestling in that certain year, did the average attendance of that year go up or down? Sort of doing that a little bit to get an idea. And that's sort of where we got the top five: Undertaker, Cena, Triple H, Roman, and The Rock, all the way down to number 25, Bryan Danielson. Booker T, let's just scroll down a little bit here. A rank of 41.6 for old Booker T here. He is number 43, I guess, if you look at it. Number 43. He is around the same areas of like Drew McIntyre, Lex Luger. I mean, Bubba Ray Dudley is where he is. There's other people I'm skipping, like Vader and Kenny Omega, because they're in the Hall of Fame, not necessarily fully because of their WWE run, but obviously in Japan. Devon Dudley, like he is in this amalgamation of people that's like, I don't like, you're not looking at Drew McIntyre as a draw in any sort of way. Now Booker T is on the list. He is in a top 80 space. It's not top 80, but like he is on the list at a top 50, I guess. But when we're looking at Hall of Fame draws or anything, I'm really not looking at anything here. To break down his stats even further, he has 9 main events where he gets 10,000 plus attendance, 14 with main and semi-mains at 10,000 plus.
Both of those put him outside the top 30.
Say it again?
Both of those put him outside the top 30.
Yeah. Correct. Closer to this 35 and 40. Looking at that third promotional scale, he has 11 main events. and 16 main and semi-main events, which puts him within the top 20. So that's something. And then a lot of that has to do with maybe a little bit of the TNA stuff. Longevity on top, he is only in the top 5 once in his entire career, with all of the promotions, and that applies with longevity on top by average attendance. He not really, I mean, you see some people here, if I looked at the positive versus negative of, that idea of someone who has a positive number, who's on top and the attendance goes up versus negative. You're looking at people, again, top 5 here for longevity on top: Undertaker, Cena, Kurt Angle, Sting, Roman Reigns, people that had, when they were on top, the business went up, right? Booker
Relative
T,
to a prior pay-per-view or year over year?
year over year.
Okay.
Looking at Booker T, where'd he go? He is 52. So not really, and he's tied with a bunch of different people as well. At 52. That being sort of that. I mean, he's tied with like Goldberg, but Goldberg also only has 3 years, so that's a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
Randy Savage, again, that's a little bit early. JBL, the British Bulldog, Christopher Daniels, Mr. Kennedy, James Storm, as everyone else he's kind of tied with there. So not really, I would say, an elite class here, Fred. But all in all, going through all this data, and I can send this to you and you can go through the data yourself as well.
Okay.
It's what I'm trying to say here is I don't really see it. I mean, he's obviously, like I said, I think at best like an upper mid carder. He who obviously wins the world title. He has won the world title 5 times, and I can say it a couple more times if you'd like. But this is also during a period with WCW where year-over-year attendance is rapidly declining. Let me see if I can pull up the average attendance here real quick. 1999, their average attendance is about 12,500. 2000, the average attendance is a little over 8,000. And in 2001, the average attendance is a little over 5,000. So
is that bad?
Say it again.
Is that bad?
A little bad, I would say. And this is obviously the period where, Booker T is getting pushed to a degree. It's hard to tell who's getting pushed because they're also changing the world champion, 10 times within a quarter. So it's rapidly insane statistics here. But yeah, even like you add in TNA, which is even a short run of 2-3 years. He's not really on top so long. He kind of gets sidelined into part of Main Event Mafia, but he's also the tag team guy of Main Event Mafia. There really isn't. He has such a kind of a long career of kind of like 2 decades, but there isn't really much on the bone in terms of true Hall of Fame draw here, is what I'm getting.
Yeah. I put together notes on his career year by year. So I'm going to run through that real quick. Won't take too terribly long, but it kind of addresses this as well. So the debuts in WCW 93, makes his pay-per-view debut actually in the main event of Fall Brawl that year, which is a War Games match. It's Harlem Heat, Sid, and Vader against Davey Boy Smith, Dustin Rhodes, Sting, and the Shockmaster. I can't understand why WCW is struggling this year. He's on 2 more pay-per-views, so but just in the mid-card. 1994, 2 more pay-per-views. Of course, the number of pay-per-views per year is going up rapidly from here. That's at the very end of that year, they win their first World Tag Team Championship. 1995, they basically spend the year as top of the tag team division around there, playing the title some. 1996, on 7 pay-per-views. The previous year, he had 7 as well. And they have 1 semi-main event, which is against the Outsiders at Halloween Havoc 96. So basically, up to this point, they are not genuine main eventers or close to it, unless they're in there with either like NWO or 2 extra people in like a multi-man cage match. 97, they have a semi-main. I'm sorry, Booker T has a semi-main. He's in the WCW World Championship #1 contender match against Lex Luger and Stevie Ray and the Giant. And that's pretty much it. He gets the TV title at the end of the year and basically spends 1998 bouncing around as either challenging for, going for the TV title, 7 more pay-per-views, no main events. What I think would be interesting for you to add to that spreadsheet is a ratio of how many pay-per-view appearances were in the semi-main or main event slots for a wrestler, because it would not be a good ratio for Booker T, and I wonder how that would match up over history. 1999 now, gets 3 more tag team title runs and really flirts with the main event scene, like genuinely for the first time, I feel like, but then they just kind of shuffle him off to the tag team division.
Yeah.
He gets another semi-main for the TV title against Scott Steiner at Uncensored, and that is it. And then 2000 is when he becomes a for real main eventer. He gets 44 points as best player, by the way. So basically the equivalent of 9 first place votes. Um, like at the very tail end of the receiving votes list, but that is his only Fez player finish as well. So that's a thing to keep in mind. He starts the year with a feud with Stevie Ray over the Harlem Heat name, and then loses the T in his name to Big T, aka Ahmed Johnson. He then becomes GI Bro, and then he becomes the world champion when Hulk Hogan quits the promotion.
Yeah.
Because he got big mad at being called bald by Vince Russo. Or it was supposed to be a work shoot, but then he actually got mad because Russo called him bald, and they had a lawsuit over this and everything. And then Booker T pinned Jeff Jarrett when I believe Jarrett laid down, because this is how you book quality professional wrestling. People still listen to Vince Russo in the year of our Lord 2026.
And that was his first world championship.
Yep, that's how you admit yourself a new main eventer. He gets 4 main events that year and a semi-main. And then 2001, he gets shifted to kind of like that, not like secondary main eventer level at WWF once he makes the jump as part of the Invasion. Yep. He's in 3 more main events there, though 2 of them are multi-man tags. It is noteworthy that he is the only guy in the infamous Survivor Series Alliance versus WWF tag team match that was actually a WCW guy that did not jump to WWF prior to WCW's death. Like, he was the one actual guy you could call a true WCW in that match. 2002, 9 pay-per-views. He gets 1 main event as part of the Elimination Chamber, and then the next month he is back to tagging with Goldust. So not exactly a ringing endorsement of his drawing power. 2003, he loses to Triple H at WrestleMania when Triple H proves that racism is correct. And then he has a semi-main at Backlash as part of the short-lived NWO he did with Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash against Chris Jericho, Ric Flair, and Triple H. And up to this point, I think you could argue that outside of a short period in WCW, they didn't even try to draw with this guy, really.
Yeah.
That Triple H match was like right in the middle of the Mania main event. It was a big main event. It was a world title match against Triple H. But it was still like, and I wonder how much of it was like, oh, we really fucked up this build because we're going to immediately go to Goldberg when we bring him in, and we can't have Booker T win as a babyface, even though you could have him lose it like 2 weeks later or something. Mm-hmm. But hey, that's not what they were doing. 2004, he gets a couple of semi-main events as they cut. This is the period where they shift to the brand split and go full hog on the brand splitted pay-per-view. So he benefits from that. He gets 2 semi-mains, one against The Undertaker, one against JBL, because they were all on SmackDown together, and then a main event where he faces JBL, Eddie Guerrero, and The Undertaker in a WWE Heavyweight Championship 4-way. And he also feuds with John Cena for the U.S. title, which really wasn't a drawing thing, but it was helpful in elevating John Cena. 2005, 8 pay-per-views. He was in the Mania pre-show Battle Royal. Hall of Famer. U.S. title feud with Chris Benoit, aka one of the few periods where he gets like really acclaimed matches because it's against Chris Benoit before he killed himself and his family.
Where Dave gave him a 4-star plus match. That Chris Benoit series.
I think it was just 4. Frankly, I think it was just 5-1. 2006, on 10 pay-per-views, this is his most successful main eventing period. He has 5 of them, as this is basically the King Booker period, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. 5 main events, gets the World Heavyweight Championship win, wins King of the Ring, of course. Also, his Mania match that year was with Sharmell against the Boogeyman in a instant classic, if you are, brain damage. 2007, he gets 1 more WWE main event, tags, or actually it was a 5-man, against John Cena, Lashley, Mick Foley, and Randy Orton. That was a collection of people. He was in the Money in the Bank match at Mania. And then his last WWE pay-per-view was a 6-minute loss to Triple H because we just had to prove racism correct again. I can only assume. I'm not going back to check the booking. He is then suspended for the Signature Pharmacy scandal in August, requested and got his release in October. And this is when he goes to TNA.
Yep.
TNA instantly a main eventer. Teams with God, Sting.
You were talking too long, Fred. You got your
Right.
Stings and Stags.
Uh, it's because I saw Angle over here and I combined the two. Stank was wrong. With Sting against Kevin Nash and Kurt Angle, and then immediately shifts to the semi-main the next month, teaming with Kazarians. Not a name I expected to see, but there he is against Christian Cage and Bobby Roode. 2008, he does have 5 more main events, which are many of them are multi-mans. One of them is somehow, or actually, sorry, that's 2009. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, there's only 4 main events in
Yes, that's right.
2005 or 2008.
2 of them against Samoa Joe. One is a 8-man tag of the main event Mafia against the Frontline, classic feud, and then there's the King of the Mountain. 2009, his last main event.
Yep.
This is a collection of names that I adore this so much. He teams with Scott Steiner as the main event Mafia, and then separate from that, they also team with Cute Hip against AJ Styles, Devon Dudley, and Mick Foley. He gets a semi-main Lethal Lockdown and a semi-main match against AJ Styles. Just as a reminder, he wrestled AJ Styles in 2009, and that did not break 4 stars. Or a 7.5 on Cage Match.
Yeah.
2010, at this point he's basically retired. 2010, he only worked 7 matches, worked 1 TNA house show, and he also worked the Juggalo Championship Wrestling Bloody Mania 4 against Tracy Smothers. There's 2. I wonder which of those 2 shows actually drew more. 2011, mainly a color commentator. From this point, he had 2 pay-per-view matches, only 10 total. He gets 1 last semi-main in his last pay-per-view against Cody Rhodes. And then 2012, he has 3 televised matches. So, just from a drawing perspective, there is 2 years, I think, maybe 2 years, where you could really argue that he was a proper main eventer.
Yep.
And that's not even like, is he a successful main eventer? It's just, was he in main events? There was 2000 WCW, which I would argue no one main eventing that year was a success. And
I would agree.
Can't put that on Booker T. I mean, he was like calling in the doctor for a surgery when someone's arms and legs have all been ripped off and being like, oh man, this is going to look bad on my stats.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. And then he had the King Booker run for basically 4 pay-per-views.
For 2000.
And that's it.
Longevity on top. I have him at like 2nd in 2006, right behind John Cena. He's top 5 there is John Cena, Booker T, Triple H, Edge, and Batista. That's what I have there in 2006.
So I have no choice but to completely reject the idea that he was ever like a draw.
Yeah.
We mentioned his one finish with Flair Fez, not a top 10 finish, but in the also receiving votes period or portion, I should say. Never received votes in most outstanding, best on interviews, box office, or match of the year. Now, we talked about his charisma, and I think that was the strongest part of his game. And he still only received votes in most charismatic once in his career in 2006. So King Booker, when he finished 21st, 1 spot behind Choi Hong-man.
We all remember him.
He twice received votes for Best Announcer, finishing 12th in 2011 and 12th in 2025. Harlem Heat ranks 115th all time in the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Tag Team of the Year voting. I just want to give you the 110 to 120 list. It's just a interesting collection of names.
This is based off of the award shares that you put together, correct?
Right, exactly. The award shares, yes. So you take the votes they got, divided by the number of votes possible that we know of, and add it year over year. 110 through 120 for the Tag Team of the Year voting. Tyler Bate and Trent Seven, 110. 111, Giant Bedard and Travis Tomko. 112, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko. 113, Ortiz and Santana. 114, Jun and Ray Saito. 115, Booker T and Stevie Ray. 116, Davey Boy Smith and Owen Hart. 117, Butch Reed and Ron Simmons. 118, Steve Williams and Johnny Ace. 119, Hiro Saito and Riki Choshu. And 120, Chad Gable and Jason Jordan.
And these are some long-running tag teams.
I'm not. I think Harlem Heat's weakness is they weren't really good. I mean, Stevie Ray outright stuck in the ring, and Booker T is a guy that can work with good workers, but is not a great worker himself, I should say. So, so that's kind of a weight around his neck to start off with, and then he's having matches with like the Nasty Boys, and yeah. Well, you already mentioned the only matches he had over 8 on Cage Match. His highest rated singles match was against Christian on the July 7th, 2003 Raw, where he got 7.58. It was a no count out, no DQ match. So if you just want a non gimmick single, you got to go with the May 27th, 1998 WCW Thunder match against Chris Benoit. And then to get to his best pay per view singles match, it's against Chris Benoit at Armageddon 2005 at 7.36. I don't see a great in ring, like we're voting him in like we did Tomohiro Ishii kind of stuff.
No,
because
but that's
they are not the same.
That's what we're talking about here. Is that like even I think it's in both categories here. Working ability and drawing is like to get up to create any sort of case, you have to really start scraping the barrel. Like there is not much there. His highest is not that high and not that many. He has, like you said, 2 runs where one of those runs is the company is actively falling apart.
It's in the death throes.
Basically. Yeah. Where it's kind of like it's not only in the death throes, but like also like all of our top guys are kind of actually leaving, and we're like, who do we got? Who do we got? Who do we got? Let's go Booker T. I don't know.
You got like multi-organ system failure going on, and you're like, but his fingernails look nice. Like it's that kind of thing. Like, and I kind of like Booker T, but I just feel like this is a really absurd conversation to have. Like I don't even think he really hit the level where, like, I shit on the Seth Rollins reappearing on the ballot, but like Seth Rollins had such a better career in every measurable way, I feel like. And
I fully agree. I fully agree.
The only thing that I could think of as a argument in his favor is he was outside of The Rock for a decade plus, probably the most prominent black wrestler on American TV, American television wrestling.
Yeah, he was the first African American WCW World TV Champion. He was the second African American to win the World Championship in either in WWF
and in WCW right after Ron Simmons.
Yep. And in WWF that would be after The Rock as well. So like there's obviously something very important there that we can touch on, but like again, it's the sort of thing of like how much that to me that part isn't scraping the barrel. I think like if anything, maybe historical significance. I take that back because I'm going to go into his Wrestling Observer Awards and worst announcer awards. And it's like he is potentially one of the worst announcers in modern wrestling history. It's like, on the sort of African American basis of like he has the historical significance. He is one of the biggest modern African American wrestlers. I don't want to say biggest, but maybe most popular at the very least. Like that is something I'm not gonna deny that. I think that's a positive to his case, but like again, it's just like there's either not a lot there, or like when we get to like his announcing stuff, it's some of the worst stuff you've ever seen. I mean, his TNA run is like, again, also some of the worst wrestling you've ever seen.
Did he actually come out and say that he was actively slacking in TNA? Like, am I misremembering that? Because I kind of think he said that, but I didn't look for that. So
that is, I believe that is correct. I'm 99% confident that is correct.
Yeah, I think the TNA run basically. And granted, that company was not in a great place for a variety of issues, but like he didn't even get like a real, well, he's a name, so we're going to put him on top for a sustained period. Like he quickly became like a third or fourth guy in main event stable, but he was not like the guy, and he wasn't close to it. And I think that really, and then his career basically ended. I assume injuries piled up with him, wear and tear, and like that was it basically. And I don't think that he really could have added on strongly to his case in TNA. But I mean, if he spent like a year and a half there as like not even necessarily a needle mover, but like a competent main eventer, I feel a little better about the conversation. But the thing with being the biggest black star of that period is I think that it'd be a nice multiplier if he had accomplished more.
Correct.
but I just don't think he accomplished enough. And you can probably ascribe some of that to racism, because
I
I mean
think
they
I think
literally,
you could definitely ascribe a lot of that to
yeah,
racism.
yeah, and that was, I mean, when they came in, they were like a chain wearing tag team in
Yeah.
1993 in WCW, and like this was like a couple years after the everyone was mad that Arizona wasn't going, their governor was not going to recognize Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Um, Like, it was after that. Like, we're not just talking like after Martin Luther King Jr. Day, or not Luther King Jr. himself. We're talking about people being mad that a guy was like, "Oh, we shouldn't have this as a holiday."
Yep.
Um, I and we have. I can only assume. God, I honestly haven't read much about this because it's been memory hold given Triple H's current position. But I mean, like, I have to assume the original idea was that they were going to do Booker T beats racism. And maybe I have to assume.
In
I
good,
don't.
there is a good faith idea of like, surely we're going to get the heat on that. To do
Yeah,
that, we need to get the heat, which means
like
that
that.
Triple H needs to be a racist. I'm sure that's a stretch for him. Uh, and
That
then it's
was
just like, oh,
Ryan
and he
Dicey
overcomes
saying
it.
that.
He overcomes it at like SummerSlam or something. I don't know, like
Yeah,
as like 6 months down the
even
line.
at Mania, I assumed at Mania because that was the booking. No, like
Oh,
not
for
even
sure.
not even attributing them with like a moral stance. It's just basic decent
Right.
booking
Yeah, yeah.
to be like, hey, here comes a bigot. He's talking a lot of bigoted stuff. So
Oh boy, Fred is frozen again. But yeah, I know where he's going with this. Is that here comes a bigot? He's talking about the bigoted stuff. The logic then goes to you overcome it. Oh, Fred, you're back. The logic. Oh,
I'm back. Okay, cool.
the logic overcomes.
Yeah, it just has to be that.
Yeah,
What you said. Yeah,
the logic then says like, yeah, you should overcome it, and the fact that it doesn't. I mean, is that a mark? Is that like a historical significance mark to him? Is that like he is not like almost not a big enough star to beat racism? That's not the pull quote. That's not the pull quote. Take that off the air.
I
Like,
guess that's Ryan Dicey.
but it
Um,
what is the reason why they just don't go with him and go with that story when that feels like the logical, also like
well,
heartfelt? You could also make a guy in that sense.
yeah, that could have been like a big win actually for him. Like I think that could have transformed his career. But what I recall happening, and I didn't get to like dive deep into the Observer newsletters or anything, but the timeline in my head, and I apologize if I'm screwing this up, but the timeline was that they signed Goldberg right at that time
Yep.
period, and they were going to debut him right after that Mania, and their thing was like, okay, we're going to slot him against Triple H, and because we're doing that, we can't have Booker T as the babyface win the title and then go face Goldberg. That'd be a waste of Goldberg. So what we have to do is we have to stick with the racism storyline. I can't believe that they did this, but we have to stick with the racism storyline, guys, and we got to have the racist win.
Which is crazy, by the way,
Yeah,
because
it's
yes,
insane on every level.
well, there's the racism part of things, which is also crazy, which I'm going to say is more crazy. But there's also the
Yes.
other thing of like you have Goldberg coming in, you can't have him, and you want him as babyface, and you can't have babyface versus babyface, and it is very much the WWE logic of it all. But like you could just have the last world champion of WCW versus one
Yeah,
of the
that'd be a
biggest
big
stars.
match, I think,
And
actually.
I think that's a really big match. And that can just be a small little feud to then get to Triple H. You could do a three-way if you
Yeah,
want.
yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah. You could do
spin
a
off
triple
into
threat real easy. Yeah,
yeah. Um but yeah,
it's
Goldberg.
really astonishing in hindsight. Like some truly galaxy brain shit. Like
Yeah,
it's some of the worst stuff of my lifetime.
yeah, I know. And we live in
It doesn't get
2026.
talked enough about like how bad that is.
Yes, it is. It's really bad.
And this is also the peak of am I fucking going over Triple H too. So keep that
Exactly.
in mind.
Yeah, that's part of the stew here. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Goldberg comes in, they see him as a bigger star, and then it's like, yeah, we're gonna
Which
go
he
with Goldberg,
was.
which he
Let's be
is.
fair to be fair to Booker T and Goldberg. Like, look, I think Booker T had a very nice career. I wouldn't let him sniff this Hall of Fame. If you wanted to put him in the WWE Hall of Fame, which they already did with Carmel Heat, but if you want to put him in as a singles
Put
for
him in
that,
twice. He's a two-time
fuck it,
WWE Hall of
fine,
Famer.
sure. Put him in a third time as a commentator just to own the nerds online. I don't give a shit, man. Put him in a fourth time for training Roxanne Perez. Fifth time for best orgasm noises on commentary. That's fine. Then you can just bring back the old catchphrase. Whatever you guys want. But like it's I don't see the criteria at all here, man. Like and I hate to say this because I kind of like Booker T as a wrestler. I always appreciated him.
Me too.
I was never like this is one of the all-time greats at this level that we need to talk about, but he was always like really damn good. And it was always a plus on the show.
Yeah.
Except for TNA when he kind of like didn't care. But I mean, hey, look, we can blame him in that point of time.
We're
Disastrous
talking.
promotion.
Look, if we're going to talk about anything, what does Booker T have that is Hall of Fame level? I think it's his
It's the Riz, baby.
It's the Riz. He is a Hall of Fame Rizzler over here.
He is.
He's the Hall of Fame. He
really is. He really is.
It's like this. What we're talking about here is that despite being like kind of just an average worker, I guess, looking at the full scope of things, best really good worker at best, despite being like not, a push commodity, but not a Hall of Fame level draw, not even like a great level draw in any capacity, despite being a first time. Well, maybe we'll separate the commentary because maybe it's a little bit different.
Commentary. This is entirely him as a wrestler, and now we can go to the commentary and be like, "Does this add to his case?" And quickly go, "Oh no, it doesn't."
But despite all these sort of things, all these sort of hangups that we're talking about, despite succumbing to racism, I guess at WrestleMania, he then goes on to have the King Booker gimmick, and it becomes one of the most memorable characters of that decade for sure. Like despite all that, it's like his level of charisma is that Hall of Fame level. That's what gets him to the dance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But to put him on the ballot and to put him in this Hall of Fame to me is insane.
It's a little much. It's not as bad as like if David put on, God bless him, Dustin Rhodes, another guy that I like and I think had a pretty nice career. And maybe you could even argue that Dustin Rhodes had a better career. I don't know, but it's that kind of conversation. Like it's not as bad as like Val Venus or something. Like just to throw some strays out there. Else though, like that would be a far worse candidate.
But even then, I don't think any of them were world champions.
No. And like Booker T had a nice career. I
would love to have Booker T's career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's around for roughly 2 decades.
On TV, pretty high level, almost instantly.
And expands that to another decade or so, going, in sort of a backstage on screen
trainer
in terms of trainer and commentator. Talking about training, he starts up Reality of Wrestling. He has a couple of notable names there: Brian Keith, Kylie Ray, Roxanne Perez. I think Kylie Ray is more so like someone that trained there a little bit because I think she's more from the Chicago scene. But Brian Keith and Roxanne Perez, very much so. These are 2 TV acts. Kylie Ray, TV rack to a degree. TV act to a degree.
Roxanne Perez too, right? Did he actually trade Roxanne Perez? Or
she's probably like the most notable alumni, I would say, and probably easily the highest name coming out of that school ever.
Yeah,
I mean, there's not really anyone else beyond that, but that's something.
Yeah, and like what could give him a benefit is that he does basically have a pipeline to WWE. If he does end up getting someone good, then hypothetically it's much easier for them to get into WWE because of his connection there. Now I will put an asterisk here because I don't actually know how involved Booker T is as a trainer. It's not something I researched. This isn't me like slamming the guy. I just know that like people are like, oh, Shawn Michaels trained Bryan Danielson. It's like. Ish, like that kind of thing.
It's the Sweet Daddy Siki trained Edge and Christian. It's like, well, no, he didn't actually train them. The other guy trained them. He was kind of just teaching them of like, this is what you do on the road.
Yeah. But yeah, like I frankly, just in terms of like what the Hall of Fame is and the standards and applying them to Booker T, I just think he should fall off the ballot instantly. I don't think he'll ever really add anything like the way he announces. If you want to break into the comments,
announcing, we got to talk about.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to add to his career with that because he's not good at announcing. And I know that got a lot of people, like the real WWE partisan people, got really angry about that because they like his shtick. And if you like his shtick, then you're going to think he's a good announcer. But like that's all he's got going for him.
I would be shocked if you liked his stick for this many years because it's a little grating after a while.
I mean, like if you like people screaming "Shucky Ducky, Quack Quack" for 15 years,
Look,
God bless you.
Chucky Ducky Quack Quack was funny for me in like 2011, 2012, whatever that was happening. I'm not 10 years later. It's like, come on, guys, why are we still bringing this up? Like, what the fuck are we doing? It's not funny.
Does he still bring up the like MySpace top 5 thing?
I feel like he has. I feel like he has.
I swear that I've heard him do it on NXT, which is so funny because like the majority of that roster probably doesn't know what MySpace is.
They were
There's a
probably
real good chance.
the majority of that roster probably was born after MySpace ended.
Yeah.
I have to assume.
By the way, MySpace, quite possibly the cause of the greatest loss of human media in history, by the way. Because they had a bunch of music on there and then they transferred servers and were just like, don't need that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a little footnote there that popped in my brain because this is how it works up here. It's not a good place.
That's how society works in general. Is that
that's right?
You put on a streamer, and then we can just delete it whenever we feel like it.
Like I think the whole Devil's Kiss Stephanie Bakir thing is just tremendously embarrassing. Like one of those things that you're watching wrestling, and if a family member walks in the room, you're like, I got to go to a different channel. If it's hardcore porn, I'd probably be less embarrassed.
I think it's demonstrably. I think it's also like extremely like sexist in my view.
It's really not. I feel like we've not a lot, but a little bit of backsliding in terms of like how women wrestlers are presented in WWE mainly. And I think like that's a not a cause, but a symptom of it. And I think it's in a world of like women's sports in general are getting more attention than ever, and the WNBA is the biggest it's ever been. Women's tennis is on a nice little run. All this
the Olympic Games just ended, and I would say women's sports, women's ice skating was like the biggest stars that came out of the
Olympics. Always is. Yeah. And like, all this, and then to go from that to like Booker T grunting as a woman uses her ass to shove someone's face into the mat as like a bit.
And it's one thing for Booker T to do it. It's another thing for the crowd to eat it up. And
that's the That's the most cursed part of it, is when I remember, I think at Mania Weekend or whatever, like one of the NXT shows, they started doing it with them, and I was like, well, I'm just going to throw myself into traffic now.
Yeah.
Really embarrassing.
On the other hand of things, you also have, and you can see this as a compliment, you can see this as whatever, that he does get that move over, you know what I'm saying? He also adds something to the Trick Williams entrance package of it all, and that helps also get him over. As awful as a commentator as I think he is, he does, and I think that's also the charisma thing. He still does things and figures things out that work with the crowd.
The thing with Booker T is he's not a good announcer, and I'll get into why beyond the Fakir thing that I hate so much, because I think even if you like that, you can still evaluate him poorly. Is that he's not the worst announcer? Like, to refute something you said a few minutes ago, he's not the worst announcer of the past 15 years or so, because if he was that bad, he wouldn't stick around.
Yeah.
But he's stuck around, and he's been able to, like, in terms of like anyone that's stuck around for any period of time, like he's been able to rack up like some real bad things. The problem with NXT, Booker T announcing in particular, is he doesn't know or particularly care what's going on outside of a couple of acts, and he's like very open about that on the mic, and has no like. We're talking like WCW level negligence as an announcer.
Yes. Yeah.
Like when Larry Zbyszko or Bobby Heenan or even Tony Schiavone just didn't care. Like their wills were broken. Like it was that level of bad. And like he spends some matches, he'll just be screaming at replacement level announcer number 75. I don't even know the guy's name offhand. Probably two first names: Tom, Michael, Steve, something.
That's three first names.
And you can now assassinate someone with that. I
love real quickly. I love in the when you're talking about WCW negligence and not knowing wrestlers' names, and then you can't name the commentator he works with.
Look, I will defend that, and just like it's just a very like we've trained this WWE guy, this WWE announcer training. It's all very like you've got the job, but we will replace you in a second because we've got 7 more clones in the vats in the back.
And of course, I remember his name, Vic Joseph.
Oh yes, Vic Joseph. Okay,
Yeah. And we will be, and you will be sending flowers over to him promptly after this.
The fruit basket, maybe.
Well, we gotta get some funding from Reddit first.
Oh boy. Yeah, like Vic is fine. Like I heard like Brian Alvarez do Vic Joseph's actually worsting, which like I think is just further evidence of Brian Alvarez's continued brain rot. But like, Booker T just actively doesn't care about storylines. He'll get facts wrong, like about what he's supposed to be watching every week. I'm not talking about him like, not knowing what's going on Raw and SmackDown. It's the show he is commentating. He doesn't follow.
Show to show.
He'll contradict himself on his own commentary within a segment. And Vic Joseph is just left holding the bag. Yeah. And it's just like, Book, I thought you said this was bad. And just Vic Ortiz is like, it's just like, it makes up for quality with like volume.
Remember that time Booker T ordered like Grubhub?
I was working to that, yes. He has been caught ordering Grubhub while doing his job, which is fine if you're in an office, but when your job is basically do 2 hours of commentary, you got to just wait, man. At least hit a commercial.
At least.
At least hit a commercial. Maybe text someone in the back and be like, hey, look, man, you want to grab some Jimmy John's? I'll pitch in,
Well,
give me a...
It's, to speak to what we kind of talked about earlier, like you talk about like this sort of like WCW negligence. To me, it also reads as just like TNA level of care in his run. Is that like a guy that I kind of just feel like he has been coasting on his charisma alone. Hall of Fame level charisma, I'll mind you. But he's kind of just been coasting on it, and he doesn't put the effort in outside of that. TNA, the effort's not there. It's some of the worst shit you've ever seen, but people will immediately retweet him running to the ring doing commentary while beating up a bunch of people.
Yeah, which is fun, because that was fun stuff. Like he had a little, like
he's able to do these things of like putting over acts in very sexist ways, or just saying a couple times at Trick Williams entrance and helps put over an act. He's able to like be charismatic and Chucky and have all these Chucky Ducky Quack Quacks, all this stuff.
Yeah, and memorable stuff,
very memorable things that we can quote 10 years later. But then in between that, it's like the worst shit you've ever seen because this guy doesn't care because he's coasting.
Yeah. And like if you only consume them through like short clips on Twitter, or I'm sorry, X, the everything app, why is Tony Khan putting that shit on TV? Boy, it's so funny. Like I gotta bring back the 2018 WWE gimmick, but now that the site's associated with child pornography, I just gotta slap it up on there. Can't help myself. Fucking pathetic. Sorry, I gotta get that shit in real quick.
The everything app, of course, child pornography is gonna be on there.
That is part of everything. Technically, you are correct.
You can't get me wrong. You can't get me wrong here.
Oh my God.
World's great. I don't know why you're freaking out.
Nothing's on fire at all.
That's you can't even make that joke because we know there are things actively on fire in the world. Like you can't even
Booker T's commentary.
Oh God, it's oh my God.
Yeah,
just to put it in.
No.
Just to put it in terms of like Observer Awards, I'll just go through it real quick.
Go for it.
2011, second place, worst TV announcer. Honorable mention, best TV announcer. I'll give you that. 2012, third place. 2015, these are all worst TV announcers, obviously. Third place in 2012. Eighth place in 2015. First place in 2017. Honorable mention in 2018. Second place in 2022. First place in 2023, 2024, and 2025. That is
who won in 22?
What happened? Say it again.
Who won in 22?
I don't have that in front of me.
Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. I'm curious.
I'll look it up if we get to a little bit of a switch off. He has four. That's four first place worst TV announcers over 11 years of being announcer. In terms of a comp there, Michael Cole, 28 years as being announcer, has won first place 6 times. Another comp, I guess you could do in terms of all these awards. Gorilla Monsoon, announcer for 13 years, has also won it 6 times, so like Michael Cole. So in terms of modern sense, arguably according to Wrestling Observer readers, the second worst modern announcer in wrestling history, third in the history of professional wrestling. But obviously there is already been a lot of reassessing when it comes to Gorilla Monsoon to a certain degree. Yeah. I feel like that turn is starting to happen with Michael Cole with some people, not in terms of like the larger wrestling landscape, but more so like the WWE audience. I don't, I don't, I don't get the vibe that that's fully happening with Booker T per se, but still. So we're talking like a short run of 11 years, and he's already won it 4 times. That's 36% of his run, where he's deemed the worst TV announcer in modern wrestling. So not great.
And a second place as well. Second place as well.
Yeah, second place twice. Second place twice. Third place once.
Oh yes, twice. Yeah, so on the podium a lot. Yeah, so like that's not adding to his career, if anything. If anything, it's really hurting. I got my own answer here, by the way. It was Corey Graves in 2022.
Oh, good on you, Corey. I'm gonna look up
back to back for him.
Good on the old core miser. I'm gonna look up 2011 because that's also when he got the second place here. Let me see if I can look this up.
I'll reopen. That was Michael Cole.
Oh, well, there you go. First place with the Michael Cole. What a bad year for commentary. Oh my god.
He was involved in he was involved in the Lawler Cole Mania match. Was the reason that Lawler got disqualified on the anonymous GM's overturning of the initial call, because that was what wrestling was in WWE at that point in time.
Yeah, it's not great. Booker T, Hall of Famer. We can demonstratively say no. I think at best a nice little wrestler in terms of a Hall of Fame.
If you love him, I get it, man. I can't rip on anyone for being like Booker T's my guy. I get it. I just don't think there's any like quantitative or qualitative way to really make the argument, given who has been inducted in the Observer Hall of Fame, what the standards have been proven to be.
He is a wrestler that I think everyone like. Here, I'll say this. I think he's a person everyone sort of loves, even in sort of in whatever way, that sort of thing is like when you see him, when he talks, you're like, this guy's awesome. I want to get a drink of this guy.
We haven't even brought up the Steve Austin grocery brawl, which is one of the legendary moment.
One of the best moments in wrestling history, because I think about that a lot. I that was one of the first wrestling things I watched on YouTube. I want to say was that brawl. But I think it's just like these things. I don't know. It's just like there's nothing really there, and it is just like a guy that everyone still likes and loves and cherishes to a degree, and they respects to a degree of like, despite not really having a lot of like substance, people still love him. And like he was
a lovable guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think he's like charismatic as hell, even though I've just spent 10 minutes shitting on his commentary, and saying he's actually bad for women's wrestling. Like, I still think he is fun in a way, not that part, but like in general, like I think you could qualify him as fun and like enjoy him and think he was a valuable upper mid carder for a long time. Very nice career, rarely got hurt, was capable in the ring, was never great, but was like, if he was actually supposed to have a great match and he was in there with someone that was great, he could do that. At worst, you're getting like, unless it's a really dumb booking like the Boogeyman thing or something, like you're getting like a 2 to 3 star match, 3.5 maybe, on a good night match out of him. He's over. He can pop the crowd easy as hell. Gets the spin of Rooney over and keeps it over for like 15 years. Great entrance theme with the Harlem Heat one.
We've got an hour in and we didn't even mention the Spinner Rudy one.
Yeah.
What podcast is this?
I know, right? Talk about a lack of professionalism. I mean, like that's where he is, and I can see like a sliding door scenario where like he gets treated better and gets elevated when WCW is not like on its death rattle. And maybe like that elevates him somewhere, or the Invasion is not one of the worst booked things in the history of the industry. And maybe Goldberg doesn't come in for another 6 months or something, and that Mania match is actually a big deal for him. He doesn't get stung in the or involved or whatever with the whole signature pharmacy thing. He goes to TNA and has enough juice left to like really make a run there and be maybe a bit of a difference maker. That feels like the most fantastical thing I just suggested in this little run. Like it was within reach for him, but I just don't think he really has a proper argument for it. So,
before we move on to the next little bit here, I'm just putting it together in my head. If when was the WrestleMania and the King of the Ring tournament that he wins? When was the King of the Ring tournament? Was that
That
before or
was
after
King.
WrestleMania?
That was right before King Booker. That was after. I mean, obviously, that was after the Triple H racism one. I think. Let me check my notes here.
When was the Triple H? When was the Triple H
Yep.
racism WrestleMania?
That was like 2003 or something.
Oh,
Yeah, 2003. That was a
yeah.
racism one. Yeah, the problem. Yeah, okay. So 2006's Mania was that awful Boogeyman Charmel match.
Yeah. He's not doing anything. He's like doing he's having U.S. title runs. And that's
Yeah,
kind of it.
in
Like
between. Yeah, he's just like he pops into the semi mains a couple times when they do the brand split, but he's definitely like sub JBL level. And we kind of talk about the JBL like APA to rich Texan cowboy thing overnight, and I know that there's a storyline reason for it, but the shift to like uh, guy who thinks he's a king.
large bombastic character.
Yeah, was a big shift. One thing I did put together notes on that I want to share since I did it. Just to go
Please.
back to it in ring. I think the most sympathetic thing I could find historically to his in ring prowess was the Power Slam 50. Um, so that was the forerunner for what is now the FSM 50. It was basically an attempt to look at in ring performance essentially, and it ranked the top 50 guys in the world. Now, I think looking at these lists, I could argue that maybe they were a bit too U.S. centric, but I also or English speaking centric because of the UK publication. And I think you could also point out fairly that well, that was what they had access to because it's a little different back in around 2000. All right. So here's his placements in these. In 1996, he was 47th. 1997, he was 38th. 1998, he was 24th. Feel like that was a little generous, but whatever. 1999 not ranked, despite that being a year of elevation for him. That was interesting. 2000 was 28th. That's probably his career high up to that point. 2001, 12th. Oh, that was interesting. 2003, 34th. Misses 2004, 2005, 48, 2006, 37th, 2007, 39th, and that's it. So they never had him as a top 10 guy in ring in the world. And the closest he got was 12th, but then outside of that, he was outside the top 24 or 23, I should say,
You said
every
that was
year.
2004 was his highest?
2000, no, 2001, which I thought was interesting. But that was the invasion, so it was a high profile period for him.
Yeah.
I don't know how stringent they were to like match quality if they factored in like charisma or promos or something. Because I didn't, I did not get those magazines, but I thought that was interesting and maybe like the most, at least that I'm aware of, the most Booker T friendly historical stuff I could find.
I think that's all pretty fair. And I think that kind of leads us to a last little bit here I do want to talk about is we've already kind of been talking about the Wrestling Observer Awards, but I do want to kind of have a discussion with you about the definitely obviously the Wrestling Observer Awards. I think it also can be stretched out into like the Power Slam 50, the FSM, the Tapatias, the Tokyo Sport, all the other, PWI. But obviously, especially the Wrestling Observer Awards, since it is part of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, what are these sort of awards roles when it comes to a Hall of Fame discussion? There isn't, there may or may not be a lot of crossover in terms of these different things, in terms of various winners or different things. I mean, I have a little bit of evidence that I can provide. But what do you sort of think is like when you're looking at maybe historical significance or best wrestlers or whatever? These are obviously however big of a pool it is. I mean, Observer readers are voting. PWI is a selection of people. FSM 50 is a selection of people. What are you sort of like when you're trying to gather evidence and gather a case for these people? How much stock do you put into these type of awards?
I really only look at the Observer Awards. I think the value of them is it kind of shows how they were looked at that point in time. And so I don't really think that they should be used, even the Observer Awards I've done the research on, as a like it must be this tall to ride kind of thing, right?
Sure.
Like I think you can go back and retroactively say, oh, we missed the boat on someone. Like I love Kento Miyahara. I think he's one of the best in-ring guys I have ever seen in all my wrestling. He is tremendously charismatic. but the problem with him when it comes to the Observer and why I don't think he'll ever get in is he spent his entire career in All Japan, but it's the All Japan that's like the almost dead end, you know, or not like Misawa, Jumbo Tsuruta, blah blah blah. 90s just as big as New Japan, if not bigger, All Japan. So he is in like at best probably fourth biggest men's promotion in Japan
Yeah.
For that entire run. Um, but he is like, if you have not watched Shinzo Miyahara, like I will make the plea here real quick. He is one of the best minimalists I've ever seen. In that, like, he works hard. It's not like he's not an effort guy or anything. But the thing with him is and he does have kind of a formula. And some people like for some reason are like, oh well, that guy only does the same thing over and over. And it's like, yeah, but it works every time. Like, the thing with Kinto is, I like how I've turned the Booker T podcast into a plea to watch Kinto Miyahara. Um, the thing I love about him is he structures every match around hitting the straight jacket German suplex he does. And he builds to it every time, and it's so damn well. And it doesn't matter if he's actually winning with it or if it's just going to be a tease or what, but like, he really gets the crowd invested on if he can hit this move. And if he can hit the move, it's over. I don't know if anyone's ever kicked out. If it's happened, it's been very rare. And it's like a huge, like, every match is just like, oh, he's going for the damn German. Oh, he can't get it. Okay, he's going for it again. Like, and it's just beautiful. And that German it's not like I guess like a Kurt Angle where like he's really using all technique to like hurt the guy over, or like a Scott Steiner overhead where like he just flings him.
Yeah.
It's like a very fluid German suplex. The closest I would compare it to, I think Saul Reeves pulled some off that are similar. The thing with it's done very slowly, like not when he lets him, but like he gets him in the position and like there's a hesitation, there's a moment before he really goes for it. That helps this whole build. And like I think in this period, he's a very unique worker, and I'm going to die on this hill alone. I know this, but like to me, like I voted for him when he was on the ballot like 3 years ago. And he's only added to his case since then, and like I will always be like, oh yeah, like Pavlov's dog reaction. Someone will say, "Gonna be a hard," like, oh, he's awesome, he's great, oh my god. Um, and like my point here is that he has not done well historically in the Observer Awards because small promotion, overlooked, etc. Bigger, this is all along the period of like Tanahashi, Okada, Naito, New Japan, Ishii, etc. And like,
Plus, a little, obviously, observer readers are more worldly viewers of wrestling, but also there's an American skew.
Yeah,
in general.
yeah, and like if you don't have English level commentary, it's tough, which is why it was so impressive. Mexico won this year, because they don't have English commentary. But yeah, like that's the thing with Miyahara is he's doing it in a small promotion, but I know that like most people aren't watching it, and maybe we'll get to a point where like people will go back and be like, who's really good? It's Kento Miyahara, and maybe like some Eddie Kingston type worker will just gush about him constantly, or Will Ospreay or something, and lead to a reevaluation. And like, I think that would be a case where someone could reasonably, outperform their relatively weak voting performances. But I think the real value in it is like, if you're curious, like, okay, who was thought of as a great worker in 2005? You can pull up the Observer Awards and get like a decent feel for it.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. It's never going to be because it's a poll, and the only perfect thing is my personal opinions. Thank you very much. But like seriously, like there's always going to be influences on it. Like I spent years yelling about how Lucia was underrepresented in the awards, and they finally had a breakthrough year this year because CML had basically their best year of business ever, and that's what it took. That finally happened. Joshi got underrepresented this year, and I think historically they have, going back outside of like the very peak 90s years. And that's kind of a shame, and I think that's a weakness in the historical record, but you just have to account for that. You have to not just be aware of like the results of the award and like why it matters, because who the voting pool was and how they took wrestling very seriously and were generally pretty inquisitive to a certain level, but also like I think the value of it is it's a snapshot in time, and you can't really. We can talk about who we think is great in 2005 in pro wrestling, but it won't be quite the same. And it's important to kind of have that idea of like what a guy's value was back then, or what they were seen as, and how they were evaluated when it comes to these kind of discussions.
you touched. I'm glad you just brought up 2005 because I will say, Fred, maybe a bad year to pick. Can I give you the top 5 of 2005 Luthez winners?
Yes, please.
Number 1, Kenta Kobayashi. Number 2, Samoa Joe. Number 3, Pero Aguayo Jr. Number
Okay.
4, Mystico. Number 5, Eddie Guerrero.
So that was a really good voter year, you know?
That is a pretty good year.
I think that was, I honestly, it's my opinion that maybe the voters, I think the creation of AEW has maybe made the observer voting pool, to, I don't really mean this, but I can't think of a better way to put it, so I'll stick my foot in my mouth worse. Because I think that they, like, what I mean is that if you're not happy with WWE, then you're more, and it's just like the WWE Monopoly or like Zombie TNA in the first like days, you know, and then Zombie Ring of Honor. Then you're going to be like, well, what's going on outside of the world? And you'll hear like, oh, New Japan's got this Okada kid that just came back over, and this Tanahashi guy is like a great pure babyface, and you'll get intrigued and check it out, and hopefully be like, oh, this rules. I love New Japan, and I think that's kind of what happened around 2012ish.
Yeah.
You know,
well, it's that in a combination of, and I think it's, to speak what you're talking about, it's also a the readership is this viewpoint of like accessibility in wrestling.
mm-hmm.
Like the
Yeah.
fact that, like, you know, looking at that time period, you know, even earlier going to like the early 2000s, late 90s, you're seeing a lot of like American names, and then you're seeing a lot of Japanese names. And that's because
Mm-hmm.
Japanese tape trading was really the big thing here.
Yeah.
As accessibility to wrestling increases, and I think and also a big part of it is also one of the major companies in America dies fully, and it's just WWE, and then you have everything else that's happening. Then you have Japan on the rise,
Yeah.
even more so, and becoming this powerhouse in the term of world landscape. Now you're at a point where accessibility is arguably at an all-time high, outside of money, which is,
Yeah.
you know, is its own issues.
Rate limiting.
Accessibility is at an all-time high, but then you also have like 2 major American companies that are duking it out. And so
Yeah.
it's this melting pot of a bunch of different things happening all at once that I am interested in, like what that would look like. I don't want any of this to happen, but what that would look like if one of the major American companies went away. What would these Observer Awards viewership look like? What would these awards look like with
I think
accessibility so high?
I would think that it'd be more like it was in the aughts and early teens, early to mid teens, where it was more of an international flavor to the voting. Now, I'm not really ripping on WWE and AEW doing well in the Observer Awards in general, because one, they're probably the 2 biggest companies in the world right now. I mean, I think that's fair to say. Two, it's an English speaking voter base. So those are going to be by default, even if you're not in the US, if you're in Canada or the UK or whatever, then, or Australia.
It's one thing we can have international talent in like most outstanding wrestler or whatever. It's another
Yeah.
thing when it's like we go to worst or best commentator looking at Booker T,
Mhm.
and it's only going to be basically American commentators. That's it.
Yeah. Like I remember the year that was it Shinpei Nogami, a guy from New Japan in like 2016ish, either won or did really well in the best announcer thing. And I heard that people that either could understand Japanese, could speak Japanese, or knew people that did, were like, everyone when they heard that in Japan were astonished, because they're like, he's just kind of fine. You know, like he's not bad or anything, I don't think, this talk, but he was all right. But
Yeah.
like, one, this was like real, the high water mark of like right after the Michael Cole heel turn, and then just Michael Cole being Michael Cole, and WWE announcers being produced in the very Vince McMahon awful way. TNA feeling the obligation to copy that, and Ring of Honor, like you were talking about Ring of Honor announcers, like let's get real.
Mhm.
And so just like the fans were just like, I mean, I prefer the guy I don't understand to all the people I do, because he at least sounds excited, you know, in like a organic way.
But that's a legitimately like big
It
thing.
is.
That is
Yeah.
a big thing I have about commentary is just sounds excited.
Oh
Like
yeah.
like
Like
I have gone on record a couple times on Ring Post Radio saying that I'm not a big fan of Taz on commentary because he a good amount of times just does not sound excited to be there.
yeah,
Him and Excalibur can joke around, but they don't sound excited. I love Ian Riccaboni. Ian
yeah.
Riccaboni, I
He's
can
great.
he is so great as an announcer. He is enthralling to listen to. He gets excited. I think his quiet, sad voice because something monstrous happens is better than a lot of other people's.
Yeah.
Even if I wish they don't do it, but I think it's better than a lot of other people's. But like he gets me excited to watch wrestling.
Yeah.
He feels like I'm
Him and
watching.
Caprice Coleman.
Yeah, him and Caprice are the best.
Caprice is great at this too.
If I had to construct the best commentary team in AEW Ring of Honor, it is probably like Ian Riccaboni. I'll put it Don Callis, and then I'll do like Caprice or Brian. I do think like Brian is part of that mix.
Brian's good, yeah. And I think Nigel does a different vibe, but I think he's very good.
Yeah.
I think he's good at that like kind of sardonic wit kind of thing that works well for a show like Collision, where you have great matches sometimes, like 4.25 star level matches, but like you're not having like Adam Page, MGF, Texas Death. You know, like I don't know that I don't think he's bad in that role, but I don't think he's excels. It's not his strength. I always will like Excalibur. I think because of the PWG days. I still think he's good. I think he gets a lot of guff sometimes. It's just like a little excessive, you know, like in my opinion. I
feel like Excalibur was more exciting to listen to in PWG.
I agree with that. I think he probably has a little too much on his plate in AEW. I think that improves at points, but sometimes doesn't. Jim Ross, I still think when he comes out like prime Jim Ross is, we're not talking about that. We're talking about modern Jim Ross. When he was doing it still every week, I was about to tear my hair out because I was early on in the Good, Bad, and the Hungee days, and I was just like, this guy does not want to be here, and like, why are we making the elderly gentleman do this? You know, like this is elder abuse. I know that he like enjoys being on the road. Just have him hang out backstage, you know, just like.
But enough about Sting.
Yeah. Hey. Sting worked his ass off. Let's not say that.
Sting's completely different.
we can correct this. Yeah, but like when Jim Ross is invested, it's not prime Jim Ross still, but like he likes Adam Page. He likes not as much, but he likes the people he can tell he likes. Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson. When he gets like a big match with those guys, MJF, I think to an extent.
When they wheel him out for a big match,
big match, and he cares about the match. He can tell a story. He's still. It's like a 47-year-old Nolan Ryan. Like he can still touch 95. You know, it ain't what it was, but it's still pretty damn good. And I think that I like the Jim Ross 4 times a year deal. I think that he still has the gravitas. He still has like if you're an older guy like me now, because I'm getting older by the day. It still resonates a little bit in that sense. And then I get the people that are like, it's 1991, but I still like Gordon Soley. No, like that kind of deal. And they're like, is he sober right now? And they're like, I still like Gordon Soley. They're like, all right, well. And like, I don't know. Taz, I think, has his moments. I think I would keep him off the pay-per-views. I think he's good as like a week-to-week guy. He might be better slotted to Collision than Dynamite because I think Collision's not all of it, but some of it's you can fuck around a little bit, and that's what he really excels at is just kind of goofing around. Yeah. I personally think Don Callis is excellent. I think he's been jobbed a little bit in the Observer Awards in terms of like best non-wrestler. Like he won this year for 2025. I think he probably should have won in 2024 because we've had Paul Heyman doing the same shtick for 5 years now. And it's like, guys, you know, is this really comparable? We sure about that? And if before David Dixon's fan asked me, I'm aware of the whole thing that happened with him and possible sexual harassment. I'm just evaluating what he does on screen.
Yes.
I don't know what actually happened, and I'm not going to pretend like I do. I just know that there's like that specter looming over him.
And just for additional context, didn't get a single vote for best TV announcer, as far as I can tell, for 2020.
He kind of gets forgotten because he's really a manager. But I mean, I think so much of his managing is his announcing. You know, like that should probably be part of the consideration going forward if it continues the same role. What I would like AEW to do, and this is my dumb idea that I'm probably the only person in the world that likes it, but you know, I'll pitch it here. Is that I would like a rotating cast. You know, you've got like 7. I mean, you know, even if you're the most down on Taz, like I think you still think Taz is all right.
Yeah,
He's
To
not like
me,
bad.
it's Taz too many weeks in a row where he starts
Yeah,
getting tired of what he's doing a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
If I could swap out Taz a little bit more often and refreshing him up, because when he's gone and then he returns, he's like a breath of fresh air, and he's like,
yeah,
oh, this is
exactly.
what I like.
And that's what they need to do is they need to have almost like hit the shuffle button on the announce team. I think you have a little pool of league guys like Excalibur, Riccaboni, kind of Shivani, that I think is really better suited to like a second chair spot. Um, and assisting like Excalibur. Yeah, so you have that guy, and you have one of those guys on every week, and then you have this. Even if you bring in like Daddy Magic or
Yeah, Paul
when
White.
he was Paul White, I would be all right with Paul White. I think he's a fairly fun, not the best, but he has shown glimpses, and he doesn't have enough reps. So this would be a good way for him to get reps as the third guy in a chair, and just kind of. I actually like that even better for him. You could plug him in there with like Brian Danielson, and Brian could maybe help him out there, or Nigel, or Don, or even Taz again.
Or put him in like a matchup where it's like Ian Riccaboni's in the number one spot, and like
Yeah,
Big Show's also there, where it's like, yeah, I mean, Ian, you can kind of like much like many tag teams, you can have
yeah,
one guy kind of help out, hide the other things.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think I actually would enjoy maybe Paul White on a more regular basis just to see what he can do. I'm at least intrigued. I don't know if he would actually end up being great, but I could, if going back to the Booker T, he's a lovable guy kind of thing. Paul White's a lovable guy, who also did not have the Hall of Fame career, unfortunately. Um,
I think
yeah,
I think he's never been on the ballot.
I'm not going to say this because I don't think Booker T should be on the ballot. If you put Booker T on, then Paul White is at that level. We might as well, right? Please don't.
I take that back. I think he has. I think he has. I think I'm confusing
Okay.
someone else. Yes, he has. He fell off immediately. Went
As
on in
he should have.
went on in 2015 and fell off immediately.
Boy, that's a. I don't want to say wasted career because like he had a nice regular presence and everything, but like the fact he was not one of the biggest stars of his era is truly astonishing. Like some real when people evaluate Vince McMahon, like I think that they give him way too much credit for his creative and not enough credit for his business sense. And when we get to the next, like I need to develop this list of like just 20 things, and it wouldn't be hard, but like, and not like, oh, the Gobbly Cooker was dumb, wasn't it? Like, whatever. But like real, like, oh, he screwed the pooch here. Like I'm talking like Big Show not being a major main eventer for years and years.
Yeah.
The invasion angle, screwing up the Nexus run. Um, that level of stuff, like booking malpractice kind of stuff that didn't really hurt him because he was essentially the only game in town that was funded properly and had like competency involved at all. So, have a little tidbit to share with you for the 2025 awards, if I may.
Please,
I
please.
thought was interesting. I teased this before the show, and now 2 hours later or whatever, I'm back to it. So John Moxley is on the Observer Hall of Fame ballot, and he's kind of just hanging. Like he's what 40%, 30%. Like he's doing all right.
Yeah, let me pull that up here because we'll need that for the last little bit. He is at 32.3.
Okay, so that's solid. Like you're respectable, not in danger of falling off anytime soon.
That's, I guess, fifth highest.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm looking at something else, but this is the third year that Mr. Moxley has crossed the 1,000-point threshold in the Flair Fez voting. He received 1,591 points, I believe, finishing third. That's correct. He has previously won twice in 2020 and 2022. So this is the third year over 1,000. Of course, he broke 1,000. He got 3,100 in 2022, and then he ran away with it in 2020 with 4,800. John Moxley joins this list of wrestlers among the people who have received at least 1,000 points in the Fez player voting for the third time. Now, there is a caveat here in regards to the start of the voting, blah, blah, blah. This wasn't even mathematically possible until 1986. So, so we're looking at a period of almost 40 years, though. So
Yeah.
This is the list. John Moxley, Kenny Omega, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika Okada, AJ Styles, Will Ospreay, Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, Mitsuharu Misawa, Kenta Kobashi, Steve Austin, Ric Flair.
Pretty good.
He had, yeah. Bryan Danielson hasn't done that. Bret Hart actually never broke 1,000 points, which I was kind of shocked by. Mick Foley never came close. The Rock did not. I mean, And there's you can point at reasons for some of those guys, but like he has earned his way into that group, and it's not like there's that legendary NBA stat graphic of the Indiana Pacer, like maybe it was Roy Hibbert,
Mm-hmm.
and like grouped him in with like I forget exactly who. It was like Hakeem Olajuwon, Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and you're like, yeah, but like quantitatively, we know this is some horseshit. Um, but like, I don't think we really realize how John Moxley has actually been on a very high level run
Yes.
in AEW. Now, there's been some down parts, like that the beginning of the Death Riders. I thought I was going to have to chew my arm to get out of that, bear trap of talking about that, for a while there.
And
He
then
had,
that was at the beginning, and it went on 6 more
yeah,
months of
well,
nonsense.
yeah, well, it did eventually correct to like being
Of course,
awesome.
of course.
It took a little less than 6 months, but I'm being Dave Meltzer level exact there. God bless Dave Meltzer. That's one of my favorite bits of him with on audio is like estimating something and then immediately correcting himself.
I know.
It's such a good bit.
I love
Like,
it.
and it's not a bit. It's just Dave Meltzer. That's what makes this much better.
Well, it's also something that like I think about sometimes when I'm doing the show of like I'll say
Yeah.
an estimate and then I'm like immediately looking at the thing and be like, oh, what was the actual number?
Yeah.
I want to be sure I'm correct.
It's just Dave is a beautiful mind. God bless him. So
The Observer Awards,
um,
I think ultimately it's like I think you're right. I think it is tough. Much like I think like Cage Match is also like tough when you look at it in terms of a
it's a
historical
rule of
sense.
thumb.
There is a rule of thumb. There is in a constant. I mean, Cage Match I guess a little bit less so, but like an evolving um pool of people that have
Mhm.
access to different things, watch different things, that have different taste in readership and listenership that change over time, or they
Yeah,
fall off and the new readers come in or
yeah,
whatever. It's this thing
and
that
it's
like it's of the moment, but it's also like a sliver of a moment.
yeah,
And that's why sort of like when I did my looking at my Wrestling Observer nonsense, I've like looked at like a giant graphic and I'm looking at like like as many awards as I can. I'm gonna add Power Slam 50 to it as well. I'm looking at like Observer Awards, PWI, Tokyo Sports, FSM 50, Tapatias, and just being like, what's like two people that pop up in the top 10 of all these awards and all these sort of years.
yeah.
That's what I do and be like try to get like a grand scope. I can give you what 2025 was and this be like this is what 2025 says in terms of combined long list if you don't mind,
Yeah.
Fred.
So
But
go for it.
this list for 2025 is John Cena, Gunther, CM Punk, Will Ospreay, Mike Bailey, Dominic Mysterio, Mystico, Bandito, Mascara Dorada, Konosuke Takeshita, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Zack Sabre Jr., Hiroki Goto, Ozawa, Shun Skywalker, The Hardys, Bro Dido, Hurt Syndicate, The Knockout Brothers, El Sky Team, Mercedes Moné, Tony Storm, Io Sky, Stephanie Vaquer, Sari, and Saya Kamatani. And that is just like people that
That's a
like,
good, yeah. That's a really good snapshot of like what 2025 wrestling was.
I yeah
Um,
yeah I have that all going all the way back to 1980.
that's pretty awesome. Actually, I would be fascinated to see that list.
Well,
It, it,
I can expand it even more for you because I have what I've also done is looked at like
this is true sicko shit here. I love it.
this is what I love. Well, I have also went through and get like, what is a 5-year span of you being what all these award readers or whatever deeming as the best. Here's that 5 year. Here's a 5+ year span. Will Ospreay 2017 to 2025 is when he's on that combined list. John
Okay.
Moxley 2019 to 2023. He takes a year off in 2024, but he returns in 2025.
Yeah.
Kazuchika Okada 2012 to 2023. The Lucha Brothers 2017 to 2022. Ray Phoenix 2018 to 2022. Young Bucks 2014 to 2021. Kenny Omega 2016 to 2021. Ishii to 2017 to 2021. Tanahashi, he has two actually, 2011 to 2015, and then also 2017 to 2019. AJ Styles, 2014 to 2018, and 2003 to 2006. John Cena, 2009 to 2015. Ric Flair, 84 to 92.
Yeah.
I've done that for a 5+ year span, for like 5+ non-consecutive years,
Yeah.
and then sort of like a 3 to 5 year span to get an idea. All those names, I have all the people I just named. There's additionally Cody Rhodes, Zack Sabre Jr., Naito, Miyahara, Muto, Shawn Michaels. The 3 to 5 year span is fun. Gunther, Tony Storm, Mystico, Bryan Danielson, Roman Reigns, the Usos, Ibushi, Rollins, Nakamura, Red Dragon, CM Punk. This is where it gets more fun. CM Punk, Davey Richards, Beer Money
Moving in to
Inc.
remember some guys, which is fun.
Beer Money Inc., Chris Jericho, Edge, Samoa Joe, Eddie Guerrero, America's Most Wanted. Shout out James Storm, popping in twice. Kenta Kobashi, Kurt Angle, Yuji Nagata, The Rock, Masawa, Austin, the Steiners, Liger, and Ted DiBiase. Of all of those names I mentioned, 62% of them are in the Hall of Fame. 60% are currently on the ballot, and 22 are not in the Hall of Fame or on the ballot. So it's like, yeah, I've tried to find that way of exactly what you're talking about. Is how do we? I'm trying to find a way to break through that readership mold that we've sort of slotted in with the Wrestling Observer Awards.
Yeah. What do we talk about when we talk about people talking about pro wrestling?
Exactly. And it's
all apologies to that. I've actually forgotten who wrote Raymond Carver. Yeah. All apologies to joining the infinite list of people ripping off the title. What we talk about when we talk about love.
But yeah, I think it's like, I think you're right that like the Observer Awards is like a snapshot, and it is this thing of like, I'm trying to devise a way, and I can send this to you as well. I'm trying to devise like a way of like, how do we break through that a little bit and look at a better scope of the entire globe, because it's difficult. It's very difficult. We said 2005 earlier. That's like way smaller. 2025 was 30 people I named. 2005 is only 10 acts.
Yeah.
Kobashi, Joe, Styles, Aguayo, Guerrero, Kojima, HBK, America's Most Wanted, Eminem, and Fujita and Hidaka. That's the 10 acts. And even then, it's like, man, that's pretty international to a degree. That's not really WWE focused, but still, it's something I've been working on, and it's does it, and then then it brings up the question of like, well, what does this mean? Does this mean anything? Can we devise that like, oh, great, yeah, I pulled up all those names and 62% of them are in the Hall of Fame. Does it mean that like Rey Fenix is a historically significant wrestler in terms of all these sort of things? Maybe. Maybe. I would love Rey Fenix to be on the ballot, I think. I think in like Mexico would be a fun idea.
But, I think Lucha Bros would be an interesting discussion in a couple of years. I feel like maybe Penta's not going to add much to his argument going forward, unfortunately. Maybe Phoenix will.
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of depends on if he gets slotted into that WWE workhorse kind of level that seems like he might be headed towards, or else he might just become a Kurosawa, I don't know.
I hate that coin flip.
Yeah, it's not the most Candidian outcomes.
No, but yeah, it's how do we assess these Observer Awards? I think they have something to offer, much like Booker T. They have something there. Maybe I think actually a little bit more Booker T. They have something to offer. There's a snapshot. You have to understand that rule of thumb that constantly
context. You got to have the context.
Got to have the context. Same thing with like cage match. And that I think that goes to just like research in general a lot of the time. That's a lot of it. Like it's very hard to assess these sort of things, but that's part of the fun. It's part of this show. It's part of the discussion.
If you're going to nerd out over this stuff, you got to go full hog, and you got to understand that like cage match didn't allow you to vote on every match until 2018. Might be a little early there. And then there was the worst thing that ever happened to cage match, which was Tony Khan mentioning it in a presser, and then WWE stands being like, "I must white knight, white LA Knight." Is that anything?
Oh God! Don't give Triple H more ideas.
Oh no! More iron crosses. Oh shit!
Is that? I feel like that's died down
a little bit. I took a long time for someone to. I don't know. Like if someone started him up, it was eventually like, "Listen, Paul, we gotta." And like I'd like to imagine that he just had no idea. It was just like, "Oh, that looks cool."
Yeah.
And like it took 15 years for anyone to be like, okay, look, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go talk to him.
Hold on. Are you talking about the Iron Cross, or are you talking about the cage match WWE voters?
Oh, I was talking about the Iron Cross.
I was talking about the cage match votership.
Oh, that's my headcanon here. Is like this is what happened with why Triple H kind of moved away from the Iron Cross stuff a little bit. Is like somebody was like, all right, I'll be the one. Everyone at the door with like glasses up to it, listening. Like, um, yeah, but like you got to consider that like. And because I look at this stuff way too close, I can tell you that like for the past couple of years, there's been like a block on Cage Match of voters with it. So a subgroup of an already small subgroup that like just loves NXT. So like you might want to grain of salt anything related to that as far as the good stuff. They are realistic enough to be like we hate Top Dollar, but like anything else, they're like Lexus King. He had a 8-minute kendo stick match with Dante Chin, and we're going to give it a bunch of 8s out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning this is an excellent match, and then you watch and you're like, this is literally every other WWE we have guys with kendo stick I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah.
And like it's nobody votes for Dragon Gate stuff on there. The people that do are like, it's all right. And which is kind of amazing, like to me, because I think modern Dragon Gate's very good. I don't watch as much as I would like to, but I pull it up, and it's always like it's 4 fantastic workers having a fantastic tag match or something, and then you go to a cage match and like 7.5 out of 10. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like jaded, like I used to love it with SEMA stuff, or like what, but it's always fun to kind of identify these little groups. And then there was a real bad period of like the true AEW versus your standing on there, and then the poor German guys lost their mind and justifiably, and they're like, we're just going to ban a bunch of people and purge and set up all these rules. The poor suffering cage match team. Shout out to him. But yeah, you just gotta have that kind of context. Everything. That's all. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Is there any more to say about the Wrestling Observer Awards and or Booker T?
Not Booker T. I mean, if you want me to talk about the Observer Awards from this year more, I could. If you just want to go home, I get it. I am okay with that too.
No worries. I mean, I have nothing else to say. That's why. I want to give you the rooms, the space here. Do you have anything else to say about the Observer?
Let me take. I'll give you maybe. I'll give you a hard out at 8:30. Start yelling at me if I'm somehow still going. I think that what was kind of interesting with the outstanding wrestler this year is that it was just kind of a bubbling undergroup finally broke over or out or whatever uh, modifier you like to put there at the end of that sentence of Fletcher, Bandito, Takeshita, and I thought that was really interesting. I also have Sauri finishing well there, though relatively. I mean, he's got 55 first place votes, which is 275 points, and then she got a total of 359 points. So like that tells you a little bit right there, which is people that really invest in Sauri would fucking stab a man for deservedly. And then there's just like I guess there's like I gotta vote for a WWE guy, so Gunter, and like God, I think Gunter's fantastic, but like I don't think you're going to be looking up 2025 Gunter in any kind of real history book, kind of deal. But there was a number of just like I only watched WWE and so I'm only voting for them. I feel like Joshi did not get as much as they should have. Like Stardom had their best year ever. It was the best year of a Joshi promotion going back to the heyday. Saya Kamatani was the biggest Joshi star going back to the heyday. I think she should have done better. She still did well, so I'm not like sour about it or anything. I don't think it was a total fumble. But I think it was I don't think they exactly covered themselves in glory with their relative lack of voting for Stardom, I think, in some of these awards.
It's like it's getting better. I mean, I talked about it with Scotty, who covers Stardom and Joshi significantly.
Yeah.
On Ring Post Radio a lot, and it was just this thing of like, I think with a lot of like Stardom fans is that it became kind of obvious that like they're just putting a lot of effort in having Saya Kamatani, especially like win the Tokyo Sports Award and like being like the biggest star in Japan this year. And I think like Observer Awards obviously recognize that, but it's also this thing of like the contrast of that is like, well, what is behind that? And there wasn't really much because it was just like we're just kind of feeding this idea. And I think that's also kind of like where Stardom is right now in terms of like, okay, well now what do we do?
Too big to be small, too small to be big, kind of. I think that they should probably be considered bigger than they currently are. I guess that'll be on them to get more especially English speaking eyeballs when it comes to these awards, of course. I'm very surprised by how fondly people kind of looked on John Cena's last year when so much of it was a disastrous heel turn.
What do you mean? He's not the most charismatic guy who couldn't get the heel turnover?
Yeah, winning most charismatic in a year where you failed at your job a lot, like, and
which is mostly talking.
Yeah, a lot of that was like based on character work, and people were still like, "I love John Cena," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's one of the best ever," but like, it's also remember what 2025 was, you know? I mean, let's not pretend what happened here. The 44 people that did not vote Mystico for Mexico MVP, I just want to talk. I'm not angry. I'm a little confused. We need to have a conversation. And like, I even understand the 16 people that voted for Dominic Mysterio more than the 11 that voted for Mascara Dorada and the 17 that voted for Bandito. Like, if you're just like I'm a WWE only affiliated ride or die,
like just American, I could sort of even if Mystico's popping up on AEW, like, I could get it.
Yeah, and I get why. Like, but if you're in the AEW group that is voting for Bandito, you should know enough. I would think.
Agree.
Based off of how Mystico was used, that you should know better. And if you're voting Mascara Dorada, that's baffling, really. I think, like, because you know enough about CMLL to realize that Mystico, that Mascara Dorada is one of the biggest stars there. But you're not voting for Mystico. What has happened?
Now I'll do a slight defense for some of these people. I think about this sometimes when it comes to the MVP award. Whenever I vote for my MVP, I don't necessarily vote for like the best person in that region.
Yeah.
Like the definitive best wrestler or like the biggest star of like American wrestling or something. I think of like who was like the perfect consistent glue guy that was constantly like a big deal and made great. I don't remember what year it was, but for one year I voted for like Mark Briscoe as like US Canada MVP, where it's like he's definitely not going to win, but it was something like, yeah, he was nonstop through here the entire year and everything he did was great. I think it was like the Ricochet feud. It was that year, which was like 24, I guess.
That sounds right. I think that's.
And it was just sort of like he was just great all year, and it had an MJF feud in there as well. If he got the thumbtacks over, and that stipulation felt a little bit dumb at the time, and he got it over completely. And it was just like, yeah, this guy was great. He was just like consistently great all year. That like made the TV. It's almost like I almost treated it like the TV star of the year to a degree. And maybe that's what people are thinking about when it came to Mascara Dorada or Bandito or Dominic. I don't know.
I can actually defend the Dominic one because if you only watch AAA, because it's probably because it's the WWE affiliated one, it's a little bit easier to watch than CMLL. And if you're only familiar with AAA, I mean, it is my understanding, I haven't watched much of it, but Dominic Mysterio is super over in AAA.
Yeah.
And so if that's like your knowledge, and also you somehow subscribe to the Observer and aren't curious enough to like learn anything about Mystico, that's the part of the equation I don't get. But ignoring that part, if you're only familiar with AAA, like, that kind of like level man on the street, I get you saying Dominic. I actually can kind of not defend because it's kind of like, who's your favorite president or who's the best president? You're like William Henry Harrison. You're like, what happened? Why do you say that? That doesn't make sense.
I think like WWE only viewers that subscribe to the Observer are like the Jim and Cornette people that go to AEW Dynamite and buy a front row ticket, where it's just like, what? Why are you here? Why? Yeah. Like, sure.
There was someone I think on Collision this week that was right behind the announcers that had the Jim Cornette face T-shirt, and I'm like, I hope you're having a good time. I don't know how you're defining that. Like, are you defining it like
multitudes?
Yeah, they do. Like, do you just like AEW but also like Jim Cornette yelling? I can understand that. Are you there ironically or like in the Jim Cornette hate thing? Weird, but okay, I can understand it.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I can't endorse it because that's some sicko behavior, but like, okay, sure. It's just kind of fascinating.
I get it. It's also like I'm just looking at the Europe MVP and like Gunther is at 7th, and it's like, why? I mean, Will Ospreay's like 9th, and it's like, why are these people getting votes at all? In here?
before this year, I think part of Mexico MVP was that is the name of a Mexican guy I know. And I think we also get that with Europe as well. Like people are like, Zack Sabre Jr. is from Europe. I'll vote him here. And he'll finish second.
Number 10 is Car Noir. I'm like, did Car
Yeah.
Noir do anything in 2025 that I don't
I
remember
assume
him?
he existed. The very funny one. I think the thing I can take away from most improved this year is that no one improved.
Yeah, talk to me about most improved, unimproved, because we all know the tendencies there, and that's again to go back to the Observer Awards conversation. It's this bit of knowing the context, and the context has been for I don't even know if it's from the beginning, but maybe of just like who's over pushed, under pushed.
Yeah, yeah. And most improved is kind of like, oh, you got a big push and you're doing better.
Mm-hmm.
Or doing pretty well with it. And the last three winners have been the acclaimed Julia Hart and Kyle Fletcher for
Yep.
2025. 2025's top five are Harley Cameron, who I think just actually got used in a meaningful role.
Push became an inaugural women's tag champion. That's pushed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they figured out how to use her weird charisma / combination of bits kind of thing that she's got going on to some extent. Joe Lanza may stroke out if they continue, but he does have a supple neck, so I'm not too worried about it. um, but I can't say that like I watched her between the beginning and the end of the year as like, oh, she's really put it together in the rings, or like she's even like better at harvesting or harnessing her abilities to draw. Like I just think she's like pretty much what she was in January 2025 is what she was in December 2025, which is not terrible, just like a unique set of skills is how I would put it. Kyle Fletcher finished second, which is the year after he won Most Improved.
He's still improving at a great rate, but not as great as last year.
And the thing, I don't even think he should have won in 2024 because he was all. If you were paying attention, you already knew how good he was. He just wasn't getting a big push yet.
That's the thing. That's the thing I love about Kyle Fletcher because, in my estimation, he's kind of been great since I don't know the pandemic.
Yeah, maybe a year after that, but yeah. And Kendall Gray, who was a rookie, I think effectively. So like that was just like she has improved from us not knowing about her. Okay. Marina Shafir is fourth.
Did she get any votes for rookie? Or she even eligible for rookie?
That's a good question. Actually, I should check on that. And the problem is
she wasn't top 10 for rookie of the year. I could see.
Maybe she was eligible the previous year then. Okay, well, maybe that is a bit off, but still, like, she is ridiculously like that's like when the NBA Most Improved player goes to like a second year player, and you're like, well, yeah, of course, like every second year player is probably improved to some extent because they actually used to being in the NBA and everything.
Yeah.
Marina Shafir was fourth, which I actually think that's primarily like, oh, we know how to book her now. Like we're actually using her properly in a way that benefits her. But like she grew into that role, so I can defend that a little bit. Kevin Knight, I'm kind of on the fence about that being a reasonable vote because like he kind of was already Kevin Knight, right? Like it was a bit of a push. Dominic Mysterio, I'll say it. I'll fucking say it. He actually kind of deserved this a little bit.
He kind of deserved this a little bit, yeah.
He went from being dog shit in the ring to all right. And mind you, that doesn't really make my heart sing. But at the same time, that's an improvement. And probably more of one than I can say for the previous five guys. Obafemi, I don't know what he improved. He just seems like the same Obafemi to me. Defunto, I think that might have just been like actually getting a push.
Yeah.
And then you have
people knowing who Defunto is, I think.
Yeah. Hina is very young, but I didn't watch much of her, so I can't speak to her. And Yudo Ice is just
Hina is a solid vote.
Yeah, I know she was very good. I just didn't know like how much, like what's the the progress on that. And Yudo Ice was just like, yeah, he came back from excursion and had a gimmick for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
He was cool and everything, but like I don't know, like we're kind of if your last memory of him is Black Trunks Yudo Ice, then like fake cocaine doing Yudo Ice is definitely going to wake you up, I reckon.
Yeah, I love the Observer Awards every time.
It's so fun. Just like you get every once in a while, you're like, what's going on in these brains? That's interesting.
Yeah, especially overrated, underrated. That's more of the pushed
Oh yeah.
commodity. Um,
And Dave gets told every year that he needs to rename most overrated, most underrated, because unless you're like steeped in the Dave lore, you may not be aware what it means. And every year he's just like, this is what God. This was on the Ten Commandments. God gave me the stone tablet, and these awards ain't changing.
um, last little bit here. Any thoughts on
Yeah,
Rookie of the Year? Yeah, I know you wrote an article for Voice of Wrestling about Rookie of the Year.
yeah. All right. So for the past few years, I just started this by being like, oh, this is interesting. Let's try to look at the Rookie of the Year criteria for the awards and figure out who's going to be eligible each year. And then people would yell at me like I made up the criteria.
Yep.
And I'd be like, look, this is just what the criteria is, man. You got to apply it. And I started like trying to get Dave to modify it a little bit. And so you want to have like Taylor Rust getting being eligible when he's like 38 in NXT for 3 months or whatever that was.
Mm-hmm. What did
And,
that guy? What happened to that guy? Was he?
I don't know. I think he's just working indies these days. So,
I'm gonna look this up.
um,
I was like, he disappeared like around the speaking out area. So there was like a part of me was like,
yeah,
was he?
I don't think it was that. I
I
kind of
don't think
hope
it was that
so.
either.
But like the batch this year of rookies was kind of atrocious. In terms of, especially if you're only like familiar with English speaking world,
Mm-hmm.
because the top three candidates basically by the criteria and were Sari Yamaoka, who I think was Marigold, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
which is
Yep.
not terribly perceived. Like, not a lot of people watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Second was Sinka Akatsuki, who I got to watch on a Marvelous, but we're talking about Marvelous, which is even further down the ladder. And third was Yutani, who was like a mid card guy in CMLL. The top English sphere candidates were Zarya, Heather by Elegance, and Cappuccino Jones. And this is after the previous winners being Javon Evans, Yuma Anzai, who at least got a lot of hype despite being in All Japan, Braun Breaker, Jade Cargill, and Pat McAfee, and Jack Perry before him. If this was not a good year for being kind to voters on like having a take on this award, like you either got to be deep in the water a little bit, or you just got to be like oh the one guy that loves TNA and writes all the body slam Gerald or Gerard, sorry, who just loves TNA. He wrote a whole article about how Heather by Elegance was eligible, and like God bless him. You know, if you love TNA, then you're voting for Heather by Elegance, I guess. But like, I'm not exactly wowed by what I've seen of her, just personally speaking. Um, but it was kind of like that. Like, if you're just a English speaking, English sphere promotion guy, like this is not a good year for you voting for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
The cover was kind of bare.
Taylor Rust out of wrestling hasn't done anything
Okay,
since 2022.
hope he's got a good shoot job. Yeah, hope he's doing all right.
Yeah, it looks like he's doing. I don't know what he's. I looked at his Twitter and I looked at X the Everything app on his profile and I couldn't see anything because he was just like posting wrestling stuff and I was like, oh well, this isn't not helpful. But yeah, that's it. That's running the show on the Booker T show on the update on Taylor Rust. I know everyone's
There we go.
dying for that one.
Just like how we drew it up.
Fred, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on. Apologies to everyone that has to listen to me. This is just how God made me. I can't help it.
Give us I'm gonna give you open the plug bag for you.
All right.
Give us the talks. Talk to us about the good, the bad, the Hungee.
Yes, got it. Use the Queen's English, please. Yeah, so that's my horribly named AEW podcast I do with Tyler Fornes. There's a reference to a now well-deceased stable. It's been dead for multiple years, but I'm going to keep referencing it because that's the good way to do business.
How long after debuting the podcast did that stable get
Probably
quickly demoted?
3 weeks, probably.
I was about to say, I was like, it's been around for a little bit. They've been
It's been
demoted for a while.
previously probably with and that's where we talk about AEW. It's been a rough start of the year just because we've both been really busy with non-wrestling nonsense. But I think we're gonna get back on the horse after the upcoming pay-per-view. Revolution, of course, which I know the name of for sure. And get back to talking about what's going on in AEW, and how things are going with that. Sometimes very silly, sometimes excellent promotion. So, check it out. If you enjoyed this episode somehow, if the brain chemicals are like, this is good, actually. The best thing about doing the show with Ryan is whenever I make him laugh, in the utmost show of support, he moves his head away from the microphone so you don't know he's laughing.
Well, I got to move my head away from the microphone, days on day style. So,
but yeah, so check it out if you enjoyed the show. It's kind of the same vibe because I can't help it.
Great. It's a great show. I love listening to it, and it's a good show. It's a good show. Just go listen to it. It's a good quality content, and also like there's also the moments where like you'll dive out of it AEW, like you'll do an Observer episode or something. Talk about the awards, or talk about the Hall of Fame or something. So it's sort of like AEW focused, but obviously like there's times where it can go into the larger wrestling sphere.
Yeah. And that's it.
Perfect. Well, Fred, pleasure as always. It's always a fun time. I'm sorry I drafted you into the Booker T Wars.
That's all right. It really wasn't that bad. I watched the Booker T matches. Like, yeah, he's still all right.
He's still all right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this month's episode of the Ballot. There will actually be a second episode coming out this month. I believe it's going to be in 2 weeks. Let me see if I can pull up a calendar real quick and find the date for that. Is it recorded? Not yet. Is it scheduled to record? Not yet, but I got a guest. So most likely be released on the 25th of March. So stay tuned for that. I have to circle back on this other guest, but I'm pretty sure I have guests lined up for the next 2 episodes. And they should be a fun conversation. And if nothing falls through, Fred, it'll be 2 brand new people I've never discussed anything with on the ballot before. So 2 brand new guests, because I think we've only had like repeats the first couple months here so far. But yeah, so it'll be 2 brand new people, assuming nothing goes wrong. But yeah, that should be exciting. So listen to us back on the 25th of March, whatever that conversation is going to be. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, if you have things to say about, comments about what we said, praises towards Fred, you can obviously give those a call. 9495 ballot. That's the phone number, 949-522-5568. Leave a voicemail, and we'll play it on the air at some point. That's a real working phone number. Go give the call. And leave your comments for Fred or me or whatever, and I'll go play them on the air and whatnot. That's pretty much it. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us. My wife texted me a bunch of chores I have to do, and I'm gonna go do them because I'm a husband. Anyways, I don't have an end point here, Fred, as you can tell.
The perfect landing.
Go check out, go support Taylor Rust. All right, thank you, everybody, for listening to the ballot. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Have a good one. Goodbye, everybody. The Ballot Podcast was recorded and produced by myself, Ryan Knightsey, as part of the Count Out Wrestling Podcast Network. Please rate, subscribe, and most importantly, review the show wherever podcasts are found. If you would like to leave a comment, question, or reaction to an episode, please drop us a line at 9495-BALLOT or 949-522-5568. Otherwise, you can contact us at countoutnetwork@gmail.com. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you next time on The Ballot. This has been a Count Out Podcast.